Shabbat shalom, everyone. I am I'm obsessed with seeking truth, and what I ended up doing was going down so many different rabbit holes. Probably over the course of I'd say close to 15 years. And that's pretty much. I really don't want to go into too much more because I don't want to take up too much more time. But thank you very much for having me, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry about all the technical, little bit of technical, issues that we're having. I can't even say the word. That's how much technical difficulties I'm having. But I think everything is good to go. I think everyone should be able to hear me and see me on both channels now. So sorry to those over at the ECF channel. We had a little hiccup. But anyways, I appreciate that testimony. And yeah, we do have a creator, and Scripture tells us right then and there what kind of creation He made. And we think that's pretty important here because it's the stage in which his whole story takes place, and knowing what you are is, I believe, a very important part of your walk in truth. So anyways, okay, well, so yeah, we're gonna kind of continue our conversation, discussion about Abraham. Now, those joining us, if you feel like you're kind of behind or whatever, it's fine. We're gonna be reading the scripture and then kind of talking about what comes to our heart about it. And we'll go from there. So before we do go any further, was there anything else that you wanted to kind of talk about, Anthony? Any announcements, anything like that? I'll take that as a no, or maybe he is away from his computer.
Hey, my bad. I was muted. I'm sorry, but no, I'm good. I'm ready to dig into it. I'd like to read one thing from last week's from the Targum, but yeah, I'm ready to dive in whenever y'all are.
Awesome. Yeah, we can totally get into it. So let me pull that up. 1 second, everybody. So I'm gonna read through these pretty quickly because I want to get through enough. There's so much we could speak about Abram about. We could do series upon series, but we're kind of trying to paint a big picture here, big foundational picture of what's kind of going on, and bring that quickly up to our modern era and the things that we're facing as individuals, as an era into ourselves. So please, like I said this before, this isn't a huge in-depth teaching. This isn't teaching really. This is us giving our opinions about the scripture that we're talking, that we're reading through, and moving from there. So I'll go ahead and bring that up on screen. So give me a second while I do. And
Vader Bear, why?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you. Never mind. I'll just read this later. We go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah, no worries. So I believe we stopped, and now we're in. Was it 15 or was it 16? I'm trying to remember. Give me 1 second.
It was 16.
Okay. Oh yeah, because we talked about him, taking the heifer, 3-year-old, the she goat, and him using that altar like his forefathers Noah did coming off the ark, and how we also see that through Cain and Abel that obviously the Adam had taught them how to make an altar and how to do according sacrifices. And we even talked about how in Jubilees, though we haven't really used Jubilees much as a here's proof, we're just using the quote unquote 66 canon, still showing you that they are doing these altars, they are doing these sacrifices, and this is behavior that's been repeated all the way up to the Messiah. So so here it is. I'll go ahead and read. We are on 16. So now it says, now Sarah, Abram's wife, bare no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abraham, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid. It may be that I may not obtain children by obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I despised her in her eyes. The Lord judged between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarah, Behold, thy maid is thy hand. Do to her as it pleases thee. And Sarah dealt hardly with her. She fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence comest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarah. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it may not be outnumbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call him Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hands will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spoke unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also looked after him that seeth me? Where therefore the well was called Beer-lahai. Behold, it's between Kadesh and Bedred. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham. So, real quickly, actually, before I move on, what kind of stuck out about that to me? Obviously, again, there's tons there, but just like how it was kind of Sarah's idea. And you could tell it was almost like she had felt, angst in herself that she wasn't giving a child to Abram. And then, she went to Abram, hey, I got this idea. But she, in her heart, was already ready to be bitter and angry. I almost think she knew that she would have a son. And have a son, give him an heir, and that's why she was so hurt, because she was deciding to do it the her way. Like she figured out their issue instead of relying on the father. And then the second thing is just the fact that Ishmael has this thing against him, where there'll be this big multitude, but every man is going to have a hand against him, and he's going to have his hand against every man. And that's kind of sad, because it says, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. Like, he knew what this man would be up against. And still, it is the father who told the presence of the angel of the Lord to tell her to name him Ishmael. So he definitely knew, and I like how, even though there's sin in there, there's also mercy in there, in him, still giving her that promise.
You think that that Sarah actually knew or had bitterness already in her heart?
I kind of think so, and the reason why I say that is just because she was already thinking, I'm not bearing any children, so I need to fix this. I need to come out a way to have Abram have an heir instead of relying on the father. So I think that bitterness came from the fact that she wasn't trusting in the father.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying now. So she had, yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Now I understand. Yeah, I'm sure she did. It's like, well, wait, but but they were told by the angel of the Lord that she would bear a child, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why? I don't know. So she wasn't trusting in the Lord, of course, right?
And she was trying to fix the problem herself, which, like, I kind of understand if you were the lady of a man who was as great as he are, like we just talked about him going and getting, like all these kings are giving him tributes, and he, wiped out all these kings just with his men. And he's only it's saying 46, but when Ishmael was born onto Hagar, but I'm guessing she's similar age, and if you're a similar aged woman and you haven't given birth by 40 years old, like that's, I would get the disheartening she felt for sure.
Right. I agree that she just felt it wasn't going to come from her. They were going to get a son, but it wasn't going to be coming from her. So that's why she fixed it herself, which turned out to be the wrong thing. But God really, I mean, he blessed everybody there. It wasn't Hagar's fault. It wasn't Ishmael's fault. It wasn't,
And that's pretty cool. Like, I'm pretty sure Ishmael was told that, no, like the angel of the Lord, like came and told me that Yah is naming you Ishmael. Like, that's where you got your name. Like, that's pretty cool.
It sounds to me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Raider. I thought you was through.
I was. Go ahead.
It sounds to me like Sarah set the whole thing up. Sarah got mad at the works of her own hand. And then later on, we find out that Abraham sort of gets in trouble for hearkening unto Sarah, to listening to Sarah. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing that happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve.
Exactly.
Adam didn't get punished for eating the fruit. He got punished for to his wife.
Yeah.
So maybe the Targum can kind of things up about it, though, if y'all would like me to start reading, or whenever y'all get.
Were you planning to read that same whole chapter?
Yeah, it says a little differently, but I kind of feel like it's a little more.
If you wanna, if just to kind of save so much time, so we're not reading a chapter 2 times every time we read it. What is there anything in particular like that it says, like kind of part you want to focus on, as opposed to reading the whole thing again?
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Okay, yeah. If you don't think you can
jump in here for a second,
yeah, absolutely.
Didn't the angels that came to Abraham didn't they come after Hagar conceived and had a son? Wasn't Sarah's response in the kitchen after hearing them? Didn't she laugh like, yeah, right, I'm too old? Didn't that happen after Hagar gave birth?
Correct. Yeah, but she did, like, what I mean by that is she hadn't been directly, like contacted by, and I'm just saying Sarah hadn't directly been contacted until after this happens. But what my point is she knew the blessings that the Father gave to Abraham, that his descendants would be, numerous of as many as the sand pieces, etc., the stars in the sky. Right. So that's how she
conceiving. So Sarah was thinking, because I believe too, like you guys, that Sarah took it upon herself. So I think Sarah's thinking, okay, well, it's not happening here. So somehow I have to make this help Abraham make this happen.
Exactly.
And offered Hagar, and like Marsha was saying too, I really think poor Hagar was a victim kind of through all this. But I also think that when she conceived, kind of got a little flippant, and but I think this is what happens when you're not patient and you don't wait on the Father, and you kind of hurry things up And
That is what the story shows.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
over and over. And that's just like, as Anthony was saying, it's very similar to the garden, right? Like Eve had like an idea of what was better, and so she did it, and then it went down to Adam, and so right. But obviously that's not all the fault of Eve. It's not all the fault of Sarah. I feel like Sarah was definitely under a lot of pressure, right? Because of this huge blessing that was put upon her husband, and she's not conceiving children. But Sarah is 100% a victim, right? Because all she did, like, of course she was probably happy that Abram, like basically a king, of his own people, was going to have a child with her. Like, that means her offspring, she knows that her offspring is always going to be taken care of. So I bet she was so happy and joyous. Not only that part, but regardless of conceiving a child and having a child is an amazing experience. And so when she does this thing that she was asked to do by her mistress, all of a sudden now the mistress is angry at her for doing what she had been asked. And so, she flees. And then I love that the father, this is why, she is a victim, because the father sends out his angel to go say, hey, comfort her. Let her know that the father knows what's going on. He's not he's not leaving you destitute. Like, you shall not be numbered from multitude. He hears that affliction, and you shall bear a son. And it's I love, that's what I was kind of saying, that even though there's this, she receives all this kind of negativity, the father shows up with mercy.
The father shows up and really does uh, protect women. I mean, they are kind of
Yes.
tough, and that's just another perfect example of, hey, I know this wasn't your fault, and we go back, because I'm going to take care of you, and your son is going to be mighty. He's going to have his own nations, even though they were the Arabs. Didn't that turn out to be the bad part?
Yeah, well, and it kind of says, like, every man shall have his hand against you, and you and against every man, right? But I
Right.
guarantee, like, I've met tons of Muslim men that keep Torah way more than any Christian typically does. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, they are very, like, those type of, like, rules are very important to them.
Right.
So anyway, so we could keep going on there. You said that you wanted to read out the chapter in the Targum. So if you'd like to go ahead and do that, Anthony, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't have to go back and read chapter 16 in the Targum. We could move on to 17, but I do recommend that, if anybody's interested, to kind of look over what the Targum does say in it and see if it makes any better sense to them, if they have any questions about that chapter. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But
Okay, we'll move on to 17 then.
Alrighty, yeah, no worries. Let me pull that up on screen for everyone. All right. So
well, if you
go ahead.
If y'all like, I could read 17 out of the Targum if we could swap back and forth if y'all
Yeah,
like.
sweet. Yeah, you can do that, and then I'll just keep the KJV up on the screen, so those want to read that can kind of have that as an alternative. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. It says, this is from the Aramaic Palestinian Targum. It says Abraham was a son of 99 years, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, serve before me and be perfect, Shalaim, in thy flesh, and I will set my covenant between my word and thee, and will multiply thee very greatly. And because Abram was not circumcised, he was not able to stand, but he bowed himself upon his face, and the Lord spake with him, saying, Behold, I have confirmed or divided my covenant with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many peoples, and thy name shall be no more called Abram, but Abraham shall thy name shall be thy name, because to be the father of a great multitude of peoples have I appointed thee, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will set thee for congregations, and kings ruling over people shall come forth from thee, and I have established my covenant between my word and thee, and thy sons after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to thee and thy sons after thee, and I will give to thee and thy sons after thee the land of thy habitation, all the land of Canaan, and for everlasting possession. And I will be to them Eloah. And the Lord said to Abraham, and thou shalt observe my covenant, thou and thy sons after thee, and in their generations. This is my covenant that you shall observe between my word and you and your sons after you, every male of your being circumcised, circumcise him, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin as a sign of the covenant between my word and you. And the son of 8 days shall be circumcised among you, every male in your generations. From him, silver. And did I lose my place? And it shall be my covenant in your flesh for a covenant forever. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, unless he have someone to circumcise him, that man be her name. It's just spelt a little different. It's Sara in the Targum, and then it's changed to Sarah. And I will bless and I will bless in her body, and will also give from her a son to thee, and I will bless him, and he shall be for the assemblies, and kings ruling over nations shall be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and wondered, and said in his heart, and Abraham said before the Lord, may not Ishmael be established, and Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And with him I will confirm my covenant. Concerning Ishmael, I have heard thy prayer. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will spread him abroad and multiply him very greatly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will give him to be a great people. But my covenant, all capital letters, will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to thee at this time in the year after. And he ceased speaking with him, and the glory of the Lord ascended from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all brought up in his house, and all brought with money, every male among the household people of Abraham. And he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the same day in which the Lord spake with him. And Abraham was the son of 99 years when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. In the same day, in the 14th year, was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And every man of his house, the house trained, and the purchased with money, and the sons of the people were circumcised with him.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. That was pretty close. I felt like most of it just used a different language. A couple times it had some additional information, but it was pretty close there. But yeah, kind of what I want to bring up about that, if you don't have anything to start off, is um, just how serious this last part is. How with something he takes like right here in 14 KJV, Genesis 17:14, it says, "And the uncircumcised man child whose flesh of his foreskism is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant." So that's a pretty big thing there. Now, obviously the Father's conviction should be laid upon your heart. So I'm not telling anyone that doesn't have their who isn't circumcised to that if they don't, they're going to hell, or that their covenant's broken off. I'm not saying that. I'm just kind of showing some scripture where it's indicating that that's a big part of his covenant, is that circumcision. And he, being 99 years old, does it. His son is 13, but up here we're given like, hey, on every, at that eighth day, make sure that there's every man in every generation is circumcised. So, yeah, it is very important there. But I love how, secondly, we get that. We get, even though, Sarah's heartbroken and she's bitter from Ishmael and Hagar, she not only gets a new name, right, but she also is, told like, hey, you're going to have a son and his name's going to be Isaac. So I think that's really awesome.
Now, you know how Abraham, 99, being circumcised for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as okay, so wasn't everybody before him circumcised, right down to Adam? What?
Well, so remember that Abraham grew up in a pagan nation. He was brought out of that. So we know that through the reign of Nimrod, that he was, militarily going around and conquering nations. So we see this happen again, right? Because we know, like those that are into scripture, we know that there's going to be a time, a period that we're going to kind of be missing, where we get to Moses and the same thing is happening, right? Like they have a little knowledge of what they're supposed to do and knowing that what they're doing is wrong, but they don't have the full information. And so we get another presence of the Lord that is then telling him to do all these things again.
Now you must be circumcised, because it was. You can't even go to the feasts without. You can't be at Passover, of course. This isn't, without having.
You're not supposed to eat from. You're not supposed to eat from the lamb. Yeah, totally. So, it's definitely a big point, and we obviously see that going forward as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to kind of bring up a little bit about what Marsh was saying. Wasn't Adam and everybody before Abraham? And I would say yes, they were, because we see in Jubilees where Adam was learning the Torah for 7 years in the garden. But
he might have also not. I don't know. Might have been already circumcised when he was made. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, did he come out circumcised? Because or just he could have had the angels do it to him on his 8th day, and he so
that's true. That's absolutely true. The angels were there to help them. That's true.
And the angels were circumcised.
Yes. Yeah.
I think maybe that actually took place after the eating of the fruit of the tree of life, actually. However, when we we see what Abraham was doing. I mean, he was making altars and keeping the Torah all before this. But
Yeah.
getting in chapter 17 is y'all saying, look, there's gonna come a point where you got to be circumcised.
And no one was told to be circumcised prior to that.
And see, this also goes with the book of Galatians, what Paul is trying to tell people. Yes, you have to be circumcised, but that's just not the most important thing to do right this minute.
No,
So
it isn't. But for priests, it is.
Mm.
To be, Abraham was a priest, right?
But that's what we see Abraham doing. He's basically waiting too long. He's 99 years old. Eventually, he's going to have to do it.
Well, I guess my question is to be a priest and to that you'd have to be circumcised and to do the feasts or whatever. And so if otherwise waiting isn't an option.
So I'm confused too. I didn't. Where does it say that he was 99 before he was circumcised?
It says it. I'll bring it.
Right there in the chapter.
Yeah, I'll bring it back up on screen.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Give me 1 second.
When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am Almighty God, walk before me and blameless. But see, that's the thing. He's 99 years old. He's getting to be old in his days. And Yah appears to him and says, look, you're keeping my commandments, but you still gonna have to be circumcised. And that's when Abraham said, you know what? And then that very day is when he got circumcised. He didn't falter. He didn't tally.
I understand.
I'm sorry, I can't see the screen. So what are you reading from?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's Genesis 17:24, and it says, and Abram was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Oh, okay.
It also says verse 1, the very first line in chapter 7.
Yeah, I guess my point is before Abraham, either just like Cain was not killed because of killing Abel, because that law hasn't been brought down for them to live by yet. If it has.
No, I don't really see it like that. See, what I think it is I think it's lost over time, because each of these times, these gaps in between, are happening like when you have like for instance, pre-flood, you have the angels and their offspring, the Nephilim, conquering the entire world, right? So they're going to get rid of that stuff, and then you, after the flood, you have Noah, like, who had talked to the Father. He came out, and now it's not like specifically going in and saying they were circumcised, but I don't necessarily think it needs to happen. Like, I think that Abraham and Cain and Abel and Adam could have totally been circumcised at a point in their lives, like when there was understanding. But I don't know, when it comes to God changing the law, like, I know there's some parts where he doesn't necessarily give the fullness of the law, but I wonder if that has more to doing with the hardness of men's hearts as opposed to how he actually wants it. Like, he would have obviously rather us never take from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The consequence of that is we had to reproduce, and there's no way of getting around from having two people to increasing your numbers and them not be with their, offspring. Right. And then you could use the apologetics. Well, the DNA was so much, more there that it didn't affect them. Regardless, I think that the Father would have rather have that not have happened. So I don't always think that because certain people like Abraham wasn't, or for instance, like Abraham wasn't circumcised until he was 99, takes away from the fact that he was he was doing the other things, right? He was like Anthony was saying, he was in that covenant, but this other thing he hadn't done yet, and the father, obviously he didn't know, right, about the circumcision, him independently, and that makes perfect sense to me, because Nimrod would have, like we see today, right? We don't know whether circumcision is right or wrong. Like, and I'm talking about generally, we don't know if what days we should do these, these feasts, what the actual seventh day is. Is it actually our Saturday, or is our Saturday actually the first day of the week?
Right.
We have no idea about a lot of those things. So I don't get caught up there. I just see that he's doing it. The father is saying, do this thing. And specifically, like anyone that's doing my covenant, anyone who is doing my covenant needs to always make sure this happens.
And what was
and
so
and
awesome
if you
is
don't, then you're broken. Go ahead. Yeah.
right. And what's awesome, and he was obedient. I mean, immediately, and everybody was circumcised.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, that's awesome. It's just the obedience of Abraham, mighty, mighty. But then, I've learned a lot more with Sean. Like they were actually an angel of the Lord was speaking to these people. It's not something that you thought in your head or whatever. That's in front of them.
Oh yeah, they 100% know, because most of the time they're like bowing down. They're like, hey, no, don't bow down to me. I'm just a messenger.
Right.
Yeah. So cool. So yeah, we kind of spent a good chunk of time there. Was there anything else, Anthony, that you wanted to talk about specifically with 17 before we move on?
Yeah, kind of like my whole point.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Now, I kind of got to reiterate what I was talking about is we know that Adam was circumcised in the garden. Now, whether it was before the fall or after, I don't know. I can't tell you. I haven't read anywhere where it says it. Okay, so this is actually some of the first instances that I'm hearing about circumcision in the Bible, right? When with Abraham. Now we also see in Galatians where, as soon as Paul came through and says, no, you need to follow the Torah, right behind him, like Sean likes to talk about, is you had the circumcision party coming through. It's like, oh no, you can't even follow Torah until you're circumcised. But see, that's not what we get from and that's not what I get anyway from Genesis 17, where it seems like where Abraham was following Torah, but he was putting off this aspect of it, and Yah said, "You need to hurry, or else you're not going to get this son right." I haven't given you a son basically because you aren't circumcised yet, and we're going to see that later. He has a son after he's circumcised, right? Now, I have an opinion. I know y'all don't agree with me, but I have an opinion as to why Abraham had to be circumcised. Now, in the garden, when the three were brought to judgment, the serpent, Adam, and Eve, it says in the Targum that the serpent had to cast his skin away every 7 years, and he had his legs cut off. Well, it also says that Yahuwah covered the bodies of Adam and Eve with the skin of the serpent. Now, and you think, just kind of reason with me just a little bit. I'm trying to be just as G-rated as possible here. You would think that if Yahuwah is fixing to put everything in the hands of Abraham and his son, he doesn't want that seed to be tainted in any way by touching the skin of the serpent. So it had to have been removed so it would never touch anything evil. Now, that's just my opinion on the reasoning for circumcision.
Well,
I guess I don't really
How,
get what you're
huh?
saying, but
But what what about all the angels?
I,
How does that
what about
apply to them? I mean,
They were,
it doesn't.
I think they were created circumcised myself.
I do too, but they're
I do
circumcised.
I do too, but see, I think that when the unfallen body of Adam and Eve, when Adam was covered by the skin of the serpent, his body became like not light bearing. It lost its light, or it lost.
but when I just want to clarify this for myself and everyone else. When you say the serpent seed on Adam, you're talking about physical actions that the serpent and Adam and Eve were all taking together at one time. And I can't get behind that because I don't see that in scripture. You have to read into
Neither can I.
things.
I'm not talking about serpent seed at all. I'm talking about
Not,
the skin that Adam and Eve were clothed with it before they were cast out of the garden. It was the
Can
skin of according to the Targum. So I'm
Where
not
did you
talking about
read that? Where I've
what
never heard that. That's fascinating. Where did you read that?
you said
in
they
the
were covered with the serpent skin.
Yeah, so
Not,
I don't get how you're equating the serpent shedding its skin, that going onto the people, and that equaling circumcision.
yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, and
so
I've never. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and I'm not saying that I read the book cover to cover and understand everything that I've read, but I that's something I would have never forgotten. That's
I haven't
okay.
heard
that's
it.
pretty bold.
Well, check it out. What it says. Well, first of all, I kind of need to kind of stay on track here because it's a little difficult to explain. But it came from the Targum, from the Aramaic Targum. It says, and this is when he's judging the three. Okay, and the Lord God brought the three unto judgment. This is Genesis. What is this? Chapter 3. This isn't versed out, so I don't know what verse this is or nothing. Uh, but it Yah brought the three unto judgment, and he said to the serpent, because thou hast done this, cursed art thou of all the cattle and of all the beasts of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go. All right, now here's where it says this. It says, and thy feet shall be cut off, and thy skin shalt thou cast away once in 7 years, and the poison of death shall be in thy mouth, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between the seed of thy son and the seed of her sons. Now,
Now,
uh, it says, and Adam called the name of his wife. It said, all right, right here it says, and in the same chapter, okay. It says, and Adam called the name of his wife Hava, because she is the mother of all the children of men. And the Lord God made to Adam and to his wife vestures of honor from the skin of the serpent, which he had cast from him. And upon the skin of their flesh, instead of the adornment which had been cast away, he had clothed them.
okay, you're reading from the Targum. I don't read the Targum, so I've never heard the story.
Yeah, all the Targum is well. There's two lines I think that it's like the direct translation or it's the interpretation of another. Now we say here like Anthony likes the Targum. I like the King James version. I know that everything has been grabbled, guys. We know that. That's why we
Right.
use multiple translations in our own reading and our own research. This isn't again a comprehensive. This is a table of people throwing ideas, puzzle pieces, and seeing if they fit or not. We're just iron sharpening iron, and that you need heat, friction, and the removal of material. So, those watching, just keep that in mind as we go, and those that come and watch it afterward.
Well, I want to just make it clear. I love the KJV also. There's lots of translations I love. I just try to read lots of different ones. Is all.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's just that so it's something I'm just now hearing is all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
this is all new to me too.
If I could say something there, I think what Anthony was getting at is the promise of God was over the seed, and that the seed not be corrupted by the flesh, as it passed through the man into the womb. And I think that's what Anthony was getting at there.
That's exactly what I was getting at, because it's talking about Isaac.
But my question, the connecting question that I asked before, is how does the skin of the serpent that is put upon Adam and Eve connect with circumcision? Did, like, when he put on the clothes, all of a sudden his foreskin started growing? And that's like that's the only connection in my mind where how those two things would be together.
The skins, the flesh that we're clothed in, was like corrupted by the serpent. You know, that this, as far as the Targum goes, it was the serpent skin that was shed, that the skins were
But
made.
still, how does it connect to
No.
the circumcision?
Well, I'm just saying that's according to the Targum. You know.
But
No, I
then
know,
Why wouldn't the father say that? Why wouldn't the father go, Abraham, you have to go circumcise, get rid of that snake skin. Yeah, it's got to go. It doesn't make any sense. The father would have the father made us. He created us. He didn't create us, and then the serpent adds snake skin. I'm sorry, I just don't. It doesn't make any. It's not logical to me.
I understand that. All flesh has been corrupted, like even in the time of Noah's, you know, through all that, you know, it said all the flesh was corrupted.
Well, but we know all the flesh wasn't corrupted because we have Noah, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then after Noah, somehow the DNA or whatever got passed, or maybe it was from whatever, but there was giants again in the land, and somehow that corruption came through the flood. And then there was intermarrying of tribes and all this stuff, you know.
Right.
Explain
Yeshua to me and how he was circumcised. The most perfect being.
Well, that was
man. Why was he circumcised? How could he have possibly had the skin of the snake on him? There's no way. No way.
Yeah, I don't get the connection of the circumcision. Like, if you're stating from Genesis, 3, where he says, he gets skins from an animal and then puts them on, on them, which to me makes the sense of, when you would do a sacrifice, you would give the skins of that animal would go to the priests, and then the priests would use that to clothe themselves and to make instruments and stuff like that they needed. So that being the case, that makes sense to me, like an exchange happened that way. But if, using the Targum, we're saying that the skin that they were clothed in was, which to me is interesting because it's a covering, right? They committed a sin and then their sin was covered. But so if you're saying that cover that the Father's actually putting in them corrupts their body to now they have snake skin on them, I don't get that transaction.
No. And please explain to me why Yeshua was circumcised. How do you explain that?
That's the letter of the law.
I would if I could.
Well,
he was born into the flesh.
Yeah, he was
the
born.
flesh.
He's perfect in every way.
No. He
Without
was human.
sin.
He was human, and he needed to be circumcised also. Yes.
But not to have snake skin removed.
No, not snake skin. No.
No, he was not corrupted ever. Never.
Wait a minute.
Well, then why do he have to keep the letter of the law and be circumcised in the flesh? But my contention
Torah.
is that
that's what the Father. That's the letter of the law.
Right, I understand. Now, my contention is why doesn't it say about Yahuwah sacrificing an animal, and that would be the first blood drawn for sin to cover Adam and Eve for skin,
We
Why
don't.
isn't that mentioned?
That
It's not mentioned anywhere.
well, that's what I would assume.
No, I didn't say was. I'm equating the fact that he just like, okay, it's the father. What did he just? Because if we're going by directly like, oh, and they couldn't eat meat until Noah, right? That's when that people could eat meat. Well, then you're saying that the father literally just killed an animal, took its skin, and then that was like the first, murder of an animal that they didn't use anything from the animal except the skin. They just threw away the carcass and everything else.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'd be surprised if that wasn't mentioned, that there was a sacrifice, and that would have been the first sacrifice for sin to make the skins for Adam and Eve to cover themselves. That would have been the first bloodshed.
Well, no,
That meant,
maybe for a sin sacrifice, but I believe that there was other sacrifices, like Thanksgiving sacrifices, that you wouldn't do
Right.
to atone for your sin. It would just be enjoying in Thanksgiving.
Yes.
well, yeah,
They
I mean the
they
first
barbecued. They
sacrifice
ate flesh.
mentioned was when as far as animals go, is when Abel sacrificed, because he was a herdsman and he sacrificed.
So
So
what I personally believe is that sacrifices have always been a thing, and when we think of sacrifice, it's kind of in tune to us, like when you picture a sacrifice, what that looks like. But that's not really all what it was like. It was literally them having a feast, them
Amen.
eating animals
Amen.
and fruits and vegetables and everything as a dinner with the Father.
Yeah, they
So
just went out and killed their meal.
Yes.
and then they
Yep.
just had a particular way that he wanted it cooked in a particular way that made, because it literally, we tell in scripture that when we cook meat and we do it in Thanksgiving to him, like that is a beautiful aroma to him. So he's actually
Yes.
smelling what we're cooking, and so him giving us specific instructions on how to cook it, that's just like our father teaching us the best way to cook meat. If God gets his mouth watering from it, then it's good.
And
yeah,
he
I
even
get all.
tells us what to put on it. He gives us recipes. It's
I
the
I get
herbs and the bitters and everything. I
Yeah, I get all that. I get all that. I'm just saying, and it's a beautiful analogy too about the the first sacrifice would be in the covering of skin, just like Yeshua covers us in the blood, for our
Mm-hmm.
sins. But it's just not mentioned. And I was just saying about what's mentioned in the
and which
Targum.
okay, in
So
which
I don't know if
honestly
that's
believe,
valid or not.
yeah, to
I
me,
haven't
Yeah,
to
I
me,
said
think
one way or the
I
other.
think the Scott Targum is the only place, right,
Right.
that says that the skin they're covered in the serpent skin. Go ahead, Anthony.
That's the only place I've ever seen it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not saying one way. I'm just saying that's where it's mentioned at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I've always felt a little different, that because it's like the first sacrifice for sin, that he made skins for the covering of our nakedness. So in a way, that's kind of like a type and shadow for what Yeshua did for us, the greatest sacrifice of all. That's the way I always grew up looking at it. But
killing the
this whole
serpent.
contention, yeah, this whole contention lately about people talking about the serpent seed and everything like that, and finding the scripture in the Targum and reading about it, I got more questions about it now.
Okay, so wait a minute. Is this the shedding of the serpent's skin that was used?
Right.
Because
That,
because
that's what was.
okay. But
That's
I'm sure they ate animals before then, and I'm sure they used wool and I don't know. I don't know.
it
Yeah.
doesn't. Everybody ate animals except for the evil. They drank blood and everything before the flood.
See,
I
I
don't
don't know if
think
I
that it was
agree with
given
that,
to us
because if that
food until after.
if that's the truth, right, then what about Adam and so when when Cain was making his sacrifices, you're saying he didn't like the sacrifice because of what he was being given, not what his heart was, or you're saying it's both? Because I don't feel like there would be any reason for the father to include what they sacrificed if it wasn't important. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like we're jumping all the way back to Genesis 3, and we're supposed to be moving on to plus Genesis 17.
Let's move on.
Yeah, well, that was because of the circumcision thing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and the other thing about circumcision, we don't even know if we're doing that right.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know how Abraham was circumcised. We're in the dark, really. So
Clip a little.
Is it right here?
Call it good.
See that he did right then and there that night. That's what it says in chapter 17 in Genesis. That's what I've been saying. He kept the Torah up until the part where he was wanting a son through Sarah, and God came to him and says, "Look, you've kept my commandments except for this one thing right here." So immediately Abraham said, "Oh, well, let me get that taken care of right away. Everybody in my household, every man in my household." He did it that night.
Yeah, I don't even know.
He was obedient. He was obedient. Absolutely.
Right, but don't you think that if Yahuwah is going to send his seed through the blood of Abraham and Isaac, it would be Isaac, because he says later on in the chapter that he's given his seed to Isaac and his offspring.
I see what you're saying.
He doesn't want his seed tainted by the flesh of the serpent, because that's what says that Adam.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree with the flesh of the serpent part.
There we go.
I
That's
don't.
where I divide.
But I do agree with you with the circumcision, conceiving Isaac. Yeah, that makes sense, but not the flesh of the serpent, because I
have difficulty with it too.
Yeshua had the flesh of the serpent? That I just
can't. For 8 days, baby Jesus was corrupted.
Well, wait a minute. Yeshua didn't necessarily have that because he wasn't of earthly man. The Spirit came across Mary, and
he was still circumcised. He was still circumcised.
Yeah, that's keeping the Torah, the letter of the law, but yeah, he didn't necessarily, his flesh wasn't necessarily corrupted.
No.
Because it wasn't passed, through the flesh.
I disagree, because all flesh has been corrupted, right? So if we're saying that means Mary's flesh was corrupted, so Mary had perfect genetics, like completely. So I don't know. I feel like that gets into a little things when we're equating the sin of the serpent, because that whole idea that what that punishment is then I don't know, because you have to go from going from, okay, the skin that was put on Adam and Eve was the serpent skin. Through Adam, that manifested as as foreskin, and Eve was on it. How was it put on Eve? How does she?
Women?
Why
we wore it?
Mm-hmm.
If Eve wore it, then the women. Why aren't? What the hey? Why aren't we circumcised? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
It's talked about the promise over the seed, and the seed not to pass through the flesh.
No. Okay. I don't believe that.
I'm just saying that's a possible analogy for this whole circumcision.
Why is it all on the men then? Why aren't the women also?
The seed doesn't pass through flesh to get into the womb.
But it says her seed.
The skin on the outside.
But it literally says that her seed will go against your seed. So it's not saying the man seed will crush the serpent's seed.
Well, Adam and Eve were one, so when he said her seed, he could have been speaking to her
Okay.
the same as Adam.
Now
As
this is
that.
really getting to
It's
be.
Yeshua. Her
Yeah.
seed is Yeshua.
This is getting to be too convoluted.
Yeah,
actually.
we could literally stick on this, but let's move on, guys, because we're
move
spending
on.
so much time on this specific topic.
I did want to say one last thing on that though, and it's beautiful that is to be circumcised on the 8th day. And I've heard that the child has more in pain inhibiting endorphins on the 8th day than it ever have in its life. So it's a bit of mercy right there.
Yeah, not only that, that's actually the day when your body has had enough light from the world for you to produce vitamin K on your own, so you don't bleed out when they do the circumcision.
Right. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool thing that right there and that.
Yeah, like seeing scientific of it.
And not only those two aspects is I personally think that the body of Adam was created on the 8th day as well, and I think that has something to do with it also.
Huh.
Okay, let's move on to 17.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's actually 18, right? Yeah.
Oh, 18.
Yeah. So we're kind of getting to that point where, you know, like we could keep reading into this because Abraham's story has gone pretty far, and it goes pretty far. So we could continue reading this, but what I want to do kind of is kind of skip a little bit around for the rest of what happens. Unless you specifically, Anthony, have a chapter that you want to read. I kind of want to use the rest of the time to kind of sum up what we've been talking about Abraham as a whole, and then just have discussions about that. What do you think about that, Anthony?
That'd be fine, but I'd like to kind of go back on what I was talking about earlier. Something I wanted to read.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Before we, I thought it was pretty interesting from the Targum. But this is back in chapter 14. It says, and Sarah said to Abraham, all my affliction is from thee, being secure that thou wouldst do me justice. I left the land and house of my father and came up with thee to a foreign land, and for as much as I was not able to become a mother, I set free my handmaid and gave her to lie in thy bosom, and she seeth that she had conceived, and mine honor is despised before her. But now is my affliction manifest before the Lord, spread peace between me and thee, and the land shall be replenished from us, nor shall we need the help of the progeny of Hagar, the daughter of Pharaoh bar Nimrod, who threw thee into the furnace of fire. That confirms the furnace of fire that Abraham was thrown into by Nimrod when he destroyed all the.
What were you reading out of there, Anthony?
That's in the Targum.
That's in the Targum. Okay.
Yeah, that's Genesis. What was that? 16 from the Targum.
So, are you connecting that to what you read in the book of Jasher? Because wasn't it in the book of Jasher that it said him throwing him, or was that? Because I guess it's just, if it's not from the book of Jasher, it's just the Targum confirming the Targum.
No, it's in the book of Joshua where it talks. It goes in a lot of detail in the book of Joshua about why Nimrod threw him in the fire. Like he built the fire for 3 days and threw him in the fire, and just the bonds of his hands were burned off, not his clothes, and his brother that was tied to him or thrown in there with him or what. Have you? But he was burned up almost. Yeah, and Daryl read the whole chapter. But
so I think that was connected to the book of Jasher, and At least for me, like, I'm not 100% sure, and I know other people are like this as well, but personally, I don't know if the book of Jasher that it's talking about in scripture is the current book of Jasher that we have. That's another one of those kind of unknown things. So anyways, yeah, that's interesting though, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know of very many other places that talk about it offhand right now either, but I have heard this story even before reading these other books. I had heard this story or something, but anyway.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see here. We didn't have that. Okay, let me pull this up. Oh, I'm missing one. I accidentally closed it. No, I didn't. Okay, here we go. And we are on this one. Okay, so I'm just pulling up kind of our list. So we have had. Let me pull this up. Sorry, guys, just bear with me while I'm grabbing a couple things. I should have done this while Anthony was talking, but I was listening. But let me grab. That's here. Okay, so this is our fourth show of Abraham. We did Abraham, Abram, nations and tribes, and kind of, at least from my side of it, what I kind of was trying to paint is like we see this man who's like super blessed, like he's gonna be, the father of many nations and many tribes, and he's going to gonna be numbered as the stars and numbered as the sand of the sea. And we see him, like Anthony pointed out today, again getting blessed after he is in that covenant, after he's being obedient to the Father. So we see this as he's coming out of Babel, to his own nation. We see this with his interaction with his brother's son. Why can I not think of his name? Where he says, you pick which way to go and I'll go the other way. And then the father turns around and says, no, see, look every way. That's all yours. And then we see it here that, like after he, he's having this whole life, he has no children, and then he has a child, and then this isn't the promised one, you remember? And then he learns of the covenant behavior of circumcision, and then he gets circumcised, and then he later goes on to have Isaac. So we see this like build up of him doing things and being blessed from it, and doing the same behaviors that will later go on to talk about through Moses and Yeshua himself. And how they were participating in these same behaviors, and they were blessed accordingly. So to me, that's such an important point, as opposed to say, Abraham was just blessed. No matter what Abraham would do, he would be blessed. Well, we see, as an example, him choosing to hearken unto his wife Sarah, which caused all the problems. Not only, like, literally think about this emotionally through what he would have had to feel with Hagar, because then he has a son Ishmael that he loves, but then he almost can't love because Sarah, and then Sarah has a son, and this is going to be the blessed son. So then I guarantee you, a lot of the attention went from, his concubine's son to his actual heir, the one that would actually receive the majority of the blessings and the priesthood. And we see how that affects not only Ishmael and his mother. So we see the consequences of Abraham when he doesn't participate in that behavior. And then we see the blessings of Abraham when he does participate in that behavior and follow in covenant with the Father. And I think that's very important as we move on, because we will continue seeing this same story through Moses, and then on and so forth through the prophets and etc. So that's kind of my thoughts about it as a whole, about these four episodes that we've talked about. What are y'all's kind of thoughts about that summarization?
Well, I like the summary up to this point, absolutely. But I think we still have some more to cover, especially when it comes to Isaac. I think there's a great deal we should cover, and also the point that Daryl and I had brought up about the serpent skin and stuff. For later chapters, we should kind of keep that in the back of our mind. It's just an afterthought, because we're going to see this later on throughout throughout a lot of the chapters we're going to see, and when it comes to Isaac and his offspring and stuff.
Yeah, I like also what you said there, Vader. It was just like what Juan was saying today on Light to the Nations, about the same thing that Samson went through, when he was in covenant, he had the strength, and then he got out of covenant and lost it, and then at the last bit there at the end of his life, he got back into covenant seeking the Father and got his strength back, so that was beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And we did get a chat. I'm not seeing it, love. If you'd like to come point it out to me, that'd be awesome. But kind of back to what I'm saying is, we'll definitely, talk about Isaac and all them too. But we could literally take one chapter and spend, an episode per sentence. But I don't really know if we'll spend 4 episodes, on Isaac, but there's definitely some points we need to cover before we do move to Moses.
Okay, I'd like to welcome BV on there. I see he's on live with us. Shabbat shalom, BV.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Shalom, BV.
Been a while. Sorry, been away. Been busy trying to take care of things.
That's okay.
You guys know how it goes.
It's good to see you here.
Right, but
Miss you guys.
There, to what you were saying, brother, is there's just a few things that I'd like to cover up before we get to moving too quickly into Moses. When it comes to Isaac and everything, well, I'll try to cover them quickly though. But anyway, one other thing is, before we end tonight, there's something else I'd like to read out of the Targum that I had brought up several times before, but I just ran across it the other day, and I wanted to read it. But anyway, that'll be it towards the end.
Awesome. I found it. Sean from Kingdom in Context. He said, consider the idea Genesis 3:15 is speaking of the serpent's children, who those who do his behavior, versus the women's children, those who do the behavior of the mother Jerusalem above, i.e., Yeshua the Father. So that's at least how I interpret it. I don't really think it's connected to biological, but thanks for that that comment there, Sean, and shout out Sean. Those who haven't heard of him, most likely you have. If you haven't, go check out Kingdom in Context. He has literally 4 years of so many important topics that are, in depth. Like, we're skimming the top of this. We're, just looking at it, quickly, whereas he goes into it very intimately and shows you the connections all back and forth on a very, very, very great level to learn from. So definitely go check him out. But other than that, we can kind of go on from there.
Okay, I wanted to also mention that Sean Griffin also has Kingdom Cast with the I forgot how to say the Babylonian
the Mystery Babylon series, yeah,
that's worth checking out too, definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. That's like one of my favorite series that he does. So thanks for that, brother.
That's on Kingdom Cast. Yeah.
While checking that one out, just keep your 5-point seatbelt on.
Also, an extra 6 hours if you buy his thumb drive.
Oh yeah.
How about that? 6 hours we haven't heard, guys.
Awesome. So yeah, I don't know. I think Abraham is a great representation, of the father taking someone, because his father, his bringing ups were pagan origin. He was worshiping the same gods that that they had been, pre-flood and during Nimrod's time, and he came out of that, and so he made a nation, a Messiah, the nation, the tribes, that the Messiah would come from through the origins of a person who grew up within the worldly thing and brought him out and covered him and blessed him. And I think that's so important because it shows again that we are grafted into his kingdom by our behavior. And obviously we have a lot of sin in our lives, and think the Father that he sent his one and begotten Son, that he would die for us, that none shall perish and all shall come to the glory of him, of the Father. And that's why we're able to live like Abraham lived. He lived 99 years before he was circumcised, which means he wasn't keeping it all, but he was still being blessed throughout it. But there were times that the Father came to Abraham like he comes to us, and he puts upon our hearts, hey, this thing, you need to really focus on this thing in your life. And for some men, I've definitely seen it as I came into, looking at Torah as instructions from the Father into this community, that there are men that are, much, much older than a baby, than 8 years, 8 days old, that are getting circumcised. And like that actually sings to my heart, because I was circumcised as a child, so I never had to make that decision, and my sons are that, and I do that because he's commanded, on the 8th day, do your son, but looking back at it, I'm thankful for that blessing. One thing that I didn't have to struggle with. And to those who do struggle with that, the men out there that do struggle with it, that whether you're in chat now or later, don't take this as us saying you got to do this thing or you're bad. Go to the Father for these things. If it's weighing on your heart and you talk to the Father and he puts it on your heart, then hallelujah, amen, that he would bring you closer to him. That's all that we're talking about here.
And one more thing, yes, it is a commandment, but it's not the most important thing to do right away if you're coming into Torah, or coming into, being obedient to Yah.
Yeah, exactly. And we even see this. What does it gain a man to be circumcised if his heart's not circumcised? Right. It profits a man nothing if he's physically circumcised, but his heart's not circumcised. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's always an important point, and that's where we're not here. We're not a letter of law. We think we all here, I would assume, hope that we can do the letter of law to the best of our ability with the knowledge that we have, but we also have that mercy knowing that the Father knows us. He knows that we're trying. We knows that our heart is, and that's all we can ask for, really, in my opinion.
You're right. The Father knows our heart, and that's it. Things are usually, it boils down to a heart issue. And the other thing about being circumcised, if that born for I don't know how many years,
You're breaking up a little bit on me, Marsha. I don't know if it's you or me or what.
Uh-oh.
I am too.
Just repeat what you just last said there.
Oh, other than I just said, every boy has been circumcised in these hospitals. Very few don't get circumcised. So what good is that, just to be circumcised?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
like
we're all learning. We're all doing the best we can. It's all a learning process, and so I'm with you guys to put an emphasis on circumcision before the Father has placed it on your heart. You know, I mean, many of us are on this walk, and many of us are in different places on the walk, and I think that we need to encourage each other to continue. I don't know what that is. I'm not blowing my nose. I think
I
we
had
need to
my
I think we need to encourage each other and understand that we are all in different places on our walk. And
Exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of we've like even unintentionally we've said a lot of divisive things, right? And our goal here isn't to come to this table and to beat each other down because we disagree on things. But of course, if there's a disagreement, that is important to someone they're talking about. But what I feel like Anne is saying is we're all on this path walking to the Father. We shouldn't turn around and yell to people saying, "Hey, you're not where I'm at." Or the people in front of us, we don't yell up to them and say, "Hey, you've gone too far." Because we're all on this walk towards the Father, and we're all at different stages of it, and some of us are going to get stopped at barricades that the evil one places in our way. A lot of us have been caught up on those controversial issues, the Trinitarianism, the supersessionalism, the agerism of all these different ideas, preterism, etc. There's been people that have been hung up on these ideas, and it took their own conviction, their own heart, their own desire to seek the truth to move past him. It was never anyone sitting there, past the barricade and saying, "You're an idiot for staying there." So we're trying to grow together as a community, not find reasons to
yeah.
divide.
that
And I also think it's really important to take things
sit
to the
there
Father, like what Anthony and Daryl brought up today, regarding the snakeskin and what have you. I'm taking it to the Father. I'm going to ask him to show it to me. I mean, if that's really the case, I want to know. So I think it's important that the community also understands that you can't take everything word for word from a human, a person. You need to take it to the Father, and ask him. Ask him to show you. And he will. It may not be today or tomorrow, but he will show you.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the logo that we have. That's kind of the point of it, cuz if you look at the map that's on there, this is specifically talking about, biblical enclosed cosmology, but you can see that there's pieces missing, right? And then above that, above everything in the heavens is this, spinning puzzle piece that has a question mark on it. And I feel like when we get insight, it is from the Father. It's not something we figure out by ourselves. It's something that the Father gives us. And that's when we have the heart and desire to seek truth, right? So,
Right.
and everyone coming to this to this table are getting those pieces of the puzzle from the Father, and it's our job to work together in love, as in brothers and sisters of the same household, of the same kingdom, of the same Father, and figure that puzzle piece, this puzzle together, and not get mad because someone is trying to use a puzzle piece that doesn't fit with what you have, And I think that's
Right.
so important to walk in love. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, and if we're getting strife about something, because there's a scripture that says avoid disputes about genealogies because they render strife. So we can discuss things, but if it's starting to get
But I
headbutts or
also
anything like
believe
that, then we should just go, okay, well, let's just study a little more, and but it's not worth getting in dispute about.
right,
absolutely.
and find it in the scriptures to support it, and it can't just be in one Bible. I mean, find it, and it's what is that? You have to have two witnesses. I mean,
That's
we have to be responsible for what we're for our fruit. Okay, so when you're bringing fruit to another, and you're asking them to believe it,
no, we're
you
breaking pieces. We're
you
bringing.
have to be responsible. Wait, I'm not done. You have to be responsible. You have to find the two witnesses. You can't. You can. I believe bring it up for discussion, but that I could tell you the sky to me looks red, or orange, or purple, or whatever. But that maybe I'm colorblind, and maybe it does look that way to me, but that doesn't mean it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to be responsible and to really seek out the truth, yes, and to make sure you have the two witnesses.
No, and I totally get what you're saying, right? But what I will say is if I had to take responsibility for all the things I said, well, I feel shame for it. I honestly do, because like back in the day when I used to believe in a globe model, I would say things to, because I knew all the numbers and all the constellation, and I would say to nieces and nephews or kids and be like, if you had a stick long enough, you could poke the moon. And but then I would use the globe model as apologetics for Christianity. I would say, well, if the earth was, if planet earth was 1 mile closer, it would be too hot, or if it was 1 mile further away, it'd be too cold. It's in this perfect position within within the solar system. So we all learn. We have all said things that were incorrect. Like we all maybe said that JFK was killed, but now we realize there was nothing like that ever happened. Or name your topic.
Right.
I don't think it's always a problem to talk about it.
I don't either. I don't either. I think it's important to have an open discussion, but and that's how I learn too. I mean, that's the way I learn. So but I want that person making a claim, when I'm saying it's not logical, explain it to me. Help me understand it. And when I'm bringing up points that don't make sense, like, okay, I'm going to bring up the snakeskin, like the snakeskin, and how, Yeshua, explain it to me. It just, there's nothing biblical that, in my opinion, that it supports the snakeskin on Yeshua. So,
Other than he read it in the Targums, and that's what he believes it says. So there you go.
Right, but I do believe there's a responsibility to
My turn.
be
Second, please. Okay, y'all are putting words in my mouth that I said. I never said about y'all had to believe what I brought up a while ago. Okay, I never said anything. Please quit jumping on me about trying to say something.
No, I wasn't jumping on you, Anthony. So I wasn't jumping on you. I was jumping on the concept. Okay, and you weren't the only one that brought it up.
Yeah, we always, are learning and reading different things. We ask questions, and that's why we do it, and that's why Anthony and I started discussing it, because we found it in the Targum. I've considered other places and heard it before too, but it's just like I was brought up thinking about who the bride was, that we were the bride, and now I'm not so sure. After hearing more people discussing about it, it's opening my eyes, and I've gone around preaching that we were the bride. So now I gotta rethink, but it helps listening to other people and asking those questions and learning.
Yeah, no, totally. And think about this. Think about like how. Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
I'm done, man. Go ahead, bro. I was thinking out loud.
The bride, boy, Daryl, I believed I was. We were part of the bride. We were the bride for so many years until You know, I
Yeah, I've
literally,
got cognitive dissonance about that one. Having
Hmm.
a hard time letting it go. So I'm like, man, all right, I'm gonna have to read on this one a while.
yeah, I sure found out through Kingdom in Context, you know, that it's New Jerusalem, and he has a lot that he can bring out to show that it is, and
Well,
it just, you know,
and
I
kind
laid that to rest.
and kind of speaking out about those kind of controversial topics as a whole, it's like it's kind of as I was saying before, is like how when I came to enclosed cosmology, like I I didn't stop at Genesis. I had to read the whole thing again because like now, oh my gosh, when Joshua was asking the moon and the sun to stop, the sun and the moon to stop, and when there's a flood and all of these other things that I'm that are coming up to my that I'm now seeing because my eyes are open to that particular subject and to like the Trinity and stuff, like going back. But what's funny about it is that kind of sparked my mind is how you have that cognitive dissonance to this subject, right? And then once you realize it, it's so interesting because like back in Trinitarianism, I would try to explain it, but I could never. I would just be like, it's because God works in mysterious ways. We can't understand it, and then same with cosmology versus Genesis 1. It's like, yeah, what the Father's describing there is the planets, right? You do that mental gymnastics in your head to make it work, but then after you go back and you read it, you're like, oh, it's just so much more simple. And I feel like we do that again with the bride, kind of bringing it around to the bride, is during all of those, didn't it always sit weird with you? Like for me specifically with the bride, I always thought it's weird. Like, wait, I'm gonna be his bride? That's kind of a
Yes, it
weird
did. And
example.
I
Whereas before he like claims that we're all his brothers and sisters. So wait, he's marrying all his brothers and sisters? And so like he's
always
gonna
thought,
be the king, like he's gonna be the king that has all
how do
the.
men, right? I always thought, how do men feel about being the bride of Christ? I mean, it's a weird, because we only, you know,
It's a
it,
weird concept.
it is, and that's because it's wrong.
Yeah, and like with Trinity, right? Like remember trying to explain that to people and you wholeheartedly believed it, but you couldn't really explain it. And it's kind of like how the bride is and how a lot of these concepts, these doctrines that have seeped in to Protestantism from Catholicism because they're, basically one and the same. And they've just tried to convolute the whole thing by all these, denominations, which just another, those that didn't hear it from the last one, isn't it weird that what we call our different sections of Christianity is the same thing that we call our different sections of money? That's kind of weird.
Interesting.
Denominations.
Really?
Denominations.
Oh my gosh. Connection. Wow.
Yeah, so that's my thoughts, and I do want to kind of speak up for Anthony. I know Anthony wasn't necessarily saying he believed in those topics. It was things that he was looking at and researching, and those are kind of coming to the forefront of his thoughts. I don't think he's sold either way.
No,
Like we all are. We're all kind of we're now have the humility to change our positions because we've been wrong about so many things.
well, he was just bringing up a
We're
new
learning.
idea of what he read, and we just needed to mull it over.
Yeah,
It's
no, I
yeah,
understand.
that's all.
And
That's
I
all.
hope I speak well for you, Anthony. I know that was a little bit frustrating for you, and I apologize for it. If you would like to talk about it and kind of explain it, I would love to hear it from the horse's mouth itself.
Yeah, I think it was frustrating for most here because we're all trying to understand, and you know what I'm saying. So in as much as Anthony may be frustrated trying to bring
I
forth
think he was just
the
bringing. I just
concept,
think he
we're
was bringing
frustrated
out
trying to
another idea.
understand it. You
I
know?
think he was just bringing another idea out because that's what.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated trying to speak, and y'all keep saying you want to understand it, but you're not listening to the concept.
And
You
I have
you're hot
questions,
micing.
Anthony. I have rights to the question.
That's the
So
thing.
in order for me to understand it, I have to ask the questions.
Exactly, Anthony.
I'm not going to sit at a desk and let that person at the front of the room dictate what it is I'm supposed to know and how I'm supposed to think. No, I'm going to ask questions. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I will not ask you questions about your concepts.
No,
How's
that's
that?
not what we're about. We're here to talk, ask questions, and all that, you know. But Anthony, you want to say something?
Yeah, that either. Somebody hot mic it.
Baby, you're still hot.
Yeah, I muted him. Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay, I didn't say that either, but I have to answer one question before I get asked 20 more. So, in order for you to understand the answer to one question from my perspective of it, I have to be able to answer it. So, what I was trying to say earlier is I don't buy into these concepts myself 100%. But as I did read the scriptures, the more clear they did become to me. And one day I did see it, how clear it was in the KJV or any other Masoretic text you'd like to read. Some translations is really hard to see it in because they try to hide it a whole lot heavier, I guess. But when I did see it, I didn't see it with my eyes. I saw it because Yahuwah showed it to me. And that's the same thing with the circumcision thing. I'm not asking anybody to believe it. I'm just saying this is something that was brought to my attention, and it later becomes a little more clear to me as I read throughout even books throughout the Bible and other biblical texts. So I just wanted to be clear on that. I'm not trying to preach any kind of doctrine here. I'm saying this is something I saw that I've questioned and I've done some studies on. So I'll be happy to answer questions about it. But I can only take one question at a time. Thank y'all.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same way too. As it, I see a lot of it in the King James too, that I grew up with, and even early on, I had questions about it when I was young, and so yeah, it can line up or it couldn't. You know, it depends on just what you're open to reading, you know, and looking into, and like I said, like I had a lot of cognitive dissonance on this who the bride is thing, because that's how I was taught growing up. So I got a certain thought pattern of the way I see things now, and it's hard to open myself up and get past certain things, you know, and really being open to my
Who's got
mind.
that noise? There's a noise.
Yeah, I don't want to completely mute him so he can never talk, but he's not muting himself, so then I have to mute him so no one hears that. So BV, if you want to just mute yourself and then unmute yourself if you want to say something, that will help it so I don't just have you muted and you can never say anything. So just heads up.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you when you talk, but just when you don't, just mute yourself so we don't have the background.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, brother.
Were you wanting to say something, BV?
I had a train of thought, but it's gone now. But so we're good. Keep going.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that, man. But yeah, so yeah, no, I see what you're saying. You know, and I totally get it, because like I was just saying before, like me, honestly, like we've talked before, I know you're kind of coming from the serpent seed theory. So as you read on through the scripture, certain words and certain concepts are going to stand out to you above others. And that works just like with the globe, right? Because like when I went back to scripture and read the globe, like read it after not believing in the globe, all of a sudden I was understanding things differently, right? And so going forward, that changes my whole perception of the book. So I think kind of from go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of reiterate what I was bringing up about the circumcision. That doesn't have anything to do with serpent seed now.
So wait, I'm kind of confused, because how is, so kind of the question that we were asking before is, in from your perspective, how when the Father Yahweh covered them in the serpent seed, that corrupted their body to have foreskin.
Yeah. No, in the serpent skin, not seed, skin.
What do you mean? So no. So, listen. You said that from your perspective, from the Targum, it says that he wrapped them in the serpent skin. Okay? But then you were equating that serpent skin to the foreskin. So I don't understand why the Father wrapped them. Is that what you're saying? I'll go there before going further.
That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying. Well, maybe a little portion.
I think where it's getting mixed
but
up.
No, he covered Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Yeah, I think where it's getting mixed up is there's a difference between the serpent seed and the serpent flesh.
No,
Exactly.
I totally get that. What my question is we were talking about circumcision, and then you said that he had to remove the serpent skin, right? That was a portion of you said the reason you don't know like all the information about circumcision, but you think that the reason why they got a circumcision was to remove the serpent skin. Now, do I still have that incorrect?
Yes, but just that small portion of it.
So what portion am I like?
Not every bit of skin.
Where are we getting it wrong, Anthony?
Okay,
That's what we're
whether
asking.
it's a portion or not, they're still removing the serpent skin. That's what a circumcision does. Correct?
Is my working or something? Is it breaking up or?
No,
am
you're coming through loud and clear. We're just trying to understand you completely. Go ahead.
Okay, our body is covered in skin from head to toe. Okay, that skin is what I'm talking about, is what the Targum says that covered Adam and Eve's body in. Okay, but that portion that has to be removed is so that the seed, the untainted seed, doesn't touch the tainted skin of the serpent to enter into the womb.
Okay, so let me.
So to help me to understand it, you're saying that the Father covered Adam and Eve. He clothed them with the serpent skin, and that the serpent skin is the foreskin of the man.
That's what it sounds like.
Well, he's saying all of the skin is the serpent skin, but you got to do the circumcision so that doesn't interact with the creating of a human.
Right. So the serpent skin is the foreskin of a male. Okay.
All skin. All skin, not just
no.
foreskin, all skin, all flesh. If you look at a serpent, and it was commanded that the serpent would shed his skin and crawl on his belly. and it's just kind of a coincidence or whatever you would call it that we also shed our skin every 7 years.
Yes, naturally. However,
I don't
Right.
think it's every
Go ahead.
7 years. I think we have 7 layers, but
We
it's
do
not
have
every
7
7
layers,
years.
and without
It's probably like 30 days. So
well,
I'm not
within
quite sure
within
I'm
7
following
years,
that.
within
No.
7 years, we're all
I'm
completely
sorry.
decellulated.
My college biology class never said 7 years. It said 30
It,
days.
it in in a matter of 7 years, all our cells are replaced. Okay. Yeah, I
Tails.
could be wrong on the skin. You know, we got 7 layers. Whether it takes 7 years for all 7 layers to be gone, I don't know how long it takes or whatever.
But
But it
You
is.
know what? I would encourage you to research that because it isn't 7 years. The body regenerates very quickly. The Father has given us the
correct.
most amazing body, and so the skin. If you think about it, when you get a deep cut, it doesn't take 7 years to heal. Okay, we're talking a deep cut at the very most 6 weeks. All right, so that's regeneration. So I'm sorry, but I cannot accept your concept of a 7 year regeneration of skin when it's not true. Okay.
Okay,
So
you could be right on that. Okay, but it's kind of interesting that it takes a long time for. I mean, you could have a scar for your whole life,
yeah,
but
but
if
that's
all
not a
that flesh is,
regeneration.
okay, I feel like we're getting a little too off of
yeah,
like
we're getting
kind
off
of the
the talk.
concept. So I kind of want to bring it back.
Peter, these things need to be addressed.
No, I totally get you. I just hear me out. So I completely disagree with the notion because at least from my idea, right? And again, I always say this. I jealously reserve the right to be wrong, but from my understanding, this whole kind of idea is coming specifically from the Targum, where it's saying that the skin that was given to Adam and Eve was the serpent skin. And then from my understanding thus far, so Adam and Eve didn't have any skin until they sinned, and then when they had skin, then that skin that was given to them, that whatever they had there before, and now all of a sudden there's skin on that skin is directly from the serpent that we got. So
And I
so
disagree.
I do. Just hear me out. Just let me.
The Father created.
I totally agree with you. I'm not trying to argue with you. All I'm trying to say.
No, you're not, and I know that. I know that.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say
I'm
is
just making
that.
a point.
I totally get the point. I've been saying the same point, but what my point is to Anthony specifically is that we're taking that whole thing, and then as you said to me, you said as you kept reading scripture, it got more and more intertwined into your beliefs. So what we're all kind of saying, right? And like differently to their own, but what we're all trying to say is from our all understandings, and obviously we don't read the Targum, we didn't come to that conclusion. Now I guess that if we had read the Targum, maybe we did come to that conclusion. But what I feel is that specifically we adding skins on, as opposed to humans were already created, they were humans, and then they lost a spiritual war. We're all of a sudden including now every human is literally clothed in the skin of the serpent. And so I don't know. Their punishment right then and there was now that their skin would literally be the serpent skin. I don't know. So everyone's frustration in that is I feel like people don't believe it's scriptural. It's in the Targum, but we can't see it anywhere else in scripture.
Yeah,
Can I say something real quick?
I would like Anthony kind of to, not for people to speak for Anthony, but for Anthony kind of to respond to me individually.
ahead. I'll mute.
Brother
Well,
Anthony.
waiting on Anthony. Okay. I apologize on that 7 years. I misspoke on that. But regardless, we should.
Can you please give Anthony a second, because he has been interrupted numerous of times. He was just trying to talk. I just asked him a specific question, and I'd like him to respond if you don't mind.
Okay, I was wondering, like, what specifically? Sorry, it was breaking up a little bit. What specifically was you asking me about?
I'm saying, don't you think that because that piece of the Targum, just the serpent skin, you are then reading into scripture a whole bunch of different things that you wouldn't do if you didn't, let's say, start with the Targum and the serpent skin? Because that's Genesis 3, right? I know that's not in the Targum, but that's Genesis 3. That's pretty early on to start having these, like, you're not talking about just a slight change. You're talking about like a ladder going to the side instead of going up. It's like a completely different change in direction, in my opinion. So, like, don't you think that that does drastically change the story?
No, I don't think it drastically anything, but I'm just saying, I wasn't like looking for it as I read. It's just certain things it would just show up just out of nowhere, and it would kind of confirm the idea.
Well, in all due respect, right, you're starting off in Genesis 3, so it's not like you're just randomly, reading around and connecting that. Like, Genesis 3, if it's in your mind that all humans, their skin is the skin of the serpent, then that drastically changes the story.
No. I'm just saying, with that concept in mind, as we keep reading, you'll see it become more prevalent. It'll become more. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, in your face. It's like it just show up out of nowhere. You'll see it, and I can't point to no specific verse right off, but it just comes out of nowhere from this point on.
Well, can I say something real quick? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes, Anthony, we all read things and see things differently. So we are trying to figure out exactly how you're seeing it, because, like you just said a second ago, something about we see it. And anyway, what I'm getting at here is some of us are might be having trouble how you're exactly looking at it and how you're interpreting it, or you know what I mean. So we're trying to figure out exactly what you're saying, and we're just having trouble. Nothing against you. We're just trying to figure out, as you are, and like you said, sometimes like we don't know if this is coming from like your inners, or is this what you've been thinking all along, or does this just come up just recently and this is what you've thought of? Go ahead.
No, Daryl and I were talking one night, and we were reading through some of the Targum, and we saw this, and we started questioning whether or not that was the reason that the Torah said that circumcision was to be done to the male child. Just like, okay, why does the Torah say that pork is bad to eat? Well, I mean, it's physically bad for our body. It clogs our arteries. It shuts our heart down. It makes us fat. It kills us. So there's a reason for that being in the Torah, right? Thou shalt not kill. There's a reason for that being there. Well, what's the reasoning for the circumcision? And would this not be a
What's the reason for
circumcise their sons, but they don't do Torah. So the reason why I circumcise sons is because I realized he lived and when he described it, and so that is a out that sons to show the inward. So I hopes that they will circumcise sons, but them how to be men of then
Why do we honor? Why Sabbath? Eat pork.
But that's
Bingo. Tell us to do.
okay.
You
But
don't.
and Vader was saying he could do.
No,
But if he-
Why do you practice? Why? And I mean, he doesn't say. I don't appreciate your accusation.
Nobody's saying that, Anthony.
Okay, but what I'm trying to get at here is, look, this is not. I'm not trying to question why the Torah says to do certain things. I'm just saying that I see why the Torah says to do certain things, and I see physical reasoning for it. And this is something that I saw that could be the physical reasoning for circumcision is all.
Right.
And I'm not trying to deny or question
what's
from
the
his
physical
point of view, right,
reason
Anthony?
behind? What's the physical reason behind honoring the Sabbath on Saturday? What's the physical reason?
We need a day of rest.
Well, it's also a feast day, and Yahuwah rested on the seventh day and wanted his creation to do the same.
Okay, but you also so he created Adam on the seventh or on the sixth day and rested, but then you also said that he completed Adam on the eighth day.
Yes, that was very confusing.
Rest on the seventh.
I'll actually kind of explain this now. Sean kind of brought up things to me, and I'm still reading through Jubilee, so I am not 100%, this, but kind of what I was thinking specifically about that is that the difference between okay, so when he in Genesis 1 is like most people take it as a summary, but if you said on the sixth day that he created both man and woman all at one time, well, I had this idea where it was like, well, what if that was all the mortal soul, like the souls, the spirits, whatever word you want to use, that of each person was created, because he says, before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. So there was a relationship there. So he created everyone, even Adam and Eve, on that sixth day. And then on the eighth day, which would be Genesis 2, he comes down and specifically creates the physical body of Adam. Now, the reason why I thought that was interesting, because like in the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, we see that the 8th day, right? You have these 7 days, and then the 8th day is actually a new creation, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's when like he will come in tabernacles with us, is when he brings down the New Jerusalem. But so saying that Adam was created on the 8th day would be interesting for not only that reason, but the second thing would be because we are seeing that men were told to work 6 days and rest the 7th. If he was created on the 6th day, then I guess he wouldn't really be working, and then there would be a Sabbath, which can totally make sense to me. That's why I'm not stuck on this idea. But then if he was created on the 8th day, then Adam would have worked 6 days and then rested on the 7th. So other than those 2 points, I'm not sold on this idea. I think it's a very interesting idea, but as Sean from Kingdom of Context has showed, he said that it specifically says that he created Adam and Eve physically on the 7th day, right? So
on the 6th day.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry,
They
6th
rested
day.
on the
Sorry.
7th.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah.
It was the
no, and I understand. So tell me, where are you getting this 8th day from? Because the Father completed everything in 6 days and then rested on the 7th.
Let me ask you about that.
Glory to the Father.
Yeah, and I'm not denying that. Like I totally get that. That's what my mind has always thought. I'm not taking away that. But just hear me out. You're saying why the 8th day? Well, I gave you 2 reasons, but also to say that
I'm asking you where you read it, where you found
No, I didn't. Here, I'll state it again. So, 1, the 6th day we have in Genesis 1, we have Elohim creating stuff. And then on Genesis 2, right, I said the day, sorry, the 6th day in Genesis 1, we have Elohim creating all men and all, creating man and women, okay? And then on the 7th day he rests, right? But then Genesis 2, which is, after that, after the 7th day, if you took it instead of as Genesis 2 being a, developing the story more of Genesis 1, of the 6th day of Genesis 1, if that's what it is, okay, that makes sense. But the difference of the fact that Elohim is what's creating during the first day, and then Yod-Heh-Vav is the one who's creating in Genesis 2 is coming down and creating. So Genesis 1, Elohim is creating everything. Genesis 2, Yod-Heh-Vav is creating Adam, and then subsequently Eve.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, okay.
I got a question. Can I just mention something else? Okay, 2 things. Is what happened to the 8th day, and with the circumcision, what makes that foreskin so bad, considering the rest of the skin? Because it's all doing the same thing. So if somebody can answer me those questions, because I'm just learning.
I can definitely second question right quick. I'm not referring to only the foreskin. I'm referring to the entire skin, and skin over your entire body, your hands, your toes, I'm saying the perfect human that Yah created on day 6, that I believe, and what Vader Bear can probably explain a little better, is perfect. And now, if it touches the skin of the serpent, and I'm not saying that it does, it could become tainted with that skin of the serpent, and the seed can,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You
You're
see what I'm
basically saying the covering that is put over
the
covering that.
or what.
Oh, you're breaking
He's
up on me.
He can't
Yeah.
hear you. He can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
So anyway, about
You're breaking up,
The
Anthony.
we're
I'm just gonna
Anthony,
I'm
you're
just
a
gonna kind of
robot.
keep going because you're roboting right now. But what you were basically like, my issue with what you're saying is the covering that the Father puts over the Adam and Eve is not actually a blessing, it's a curse. And I don't see that transaction as a curse. I see that transaction as a shadow of the covering that the Messiah would put on us when he puts on our new skin. When he puts on that, when he gives that to us, we're going to be no longer susceptible to those issues. So I don't see it as the next skin we're going to get is going to be even more corrupt because it's coming from the Messiah, which is kind of, in my mind, would lead me to believe like if it's a cast and shadow of the next thing.
all right.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
you're
you're
roboting
coming through.
anymore.
Can y'all hear me right quick? Do you believe that Adam was created perfect in the eyes of Yah, Vader Bear?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Do you believe that he was given a glorified body because it was literally touched by the hand of Yah?
Yeah, I think he had that promised body that we should have had. But maybe like a Mark 1 and what Yeshua's given us is Mark 2.
Or when he left the Garden of Eden, things changed.
Okay. The skin that their glorified body was covered up with was the skin of the serpent, and that's the skin that we're looking at today. When you look at your arm, you're seeing the skin of the serpent.
No, I get that you're saying that. I'm just
Adam and
saying
Eve
that's
wrapped in to cover up their glorified bodies. And then when we and
Okay, you know what, Anthony? Are you going
and
with that
then
we
on
were
the
all white?
resurrection, we
Are you going that they weren't flesh?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
What?
because if he's reading from the book of Adam and Eve or any of those things, it talks about glorified light being bodies. And if he's talking about the serpent touching then what turned into the skin we have today. And that's just out of the um Zen stuff. Those light
No.
yeah, those
I'm
light being bodies.
doesn't even agree with Zen. This Zen didn't even say this at all. I even asked Zen about it. He don't even understand it either. He don't understand what I'm asking either. But it's
I want to. Okay, so let's take a break from that real quick. Let's gather their minds.
well,
Now,
it's
let me-
actually. Sorry to interrupt you, BV. We're actually quite a bit over of our 2 hours. I like to keep these as that 2 hours is pretty long, anyways. So I know it's been heated. I know it's kind of not the funnest to just kind of cut it right off. But I do want to start wrapping it up. And then to do that, a couple things that I kind of have to do, to show the love to those that take the time. So we read out comments from the last video, from both Take on the World TV. Quickly to that, shout out Chris Bailey, not only for the shout out that you gave us the other day when you were talking to Michael, which that conversation was awesome. That was Flat Earth is Dead, I believe, and it was very interesting topic to that idea. So shout out to that. Loved that show. And then also shout out to just giving us, letting us use your platform so we can reach more people and get more people in our community, which grows the whole community. And I just love that about y'all and the fact that you do that. And then, shout out, to all the people that come watch the video live, watch the video later on, and leave comments. It definitely helps the channel grow. It helps more people find us. So again, we definitely appreciate that. So bringing this up real quick. So share screen. Boom. So my wife said a beautiful quote. She said, glad the show is back. Looking forward to a time where it streams more than once a week. And we're actually thinking about that. We got another project going on. And shout out to Ann. She's going to be helping me with that. And talks with other people kind of helping me as well. Marsha for, kind of being connecting people together. Definitely appreciate you for doing that as well, sister. We had a little hiccups a couple weeks where we missed some episodes, but we should be consistent going forward. And then if anything comes up, Discord is a great place to find that information. Come join us if you haven't. It's a great place to have conversations throughout the week. We do voice chats, we do text chats about tons of different topics and ideas, prepping, homeschooling, the whole plethora of ideas to share with each other. So come join us there. The link is description for that as always. And then just to finish up, we have on the Take on the World channel from episode 15. I'm pulling that up, so just bear with me and we'll look at that together. That was Nations. And we have any comments on this one? Yes, we have Moonglow said thank you. No, thank you for your comment. And my wife said, not a fan of Jasher or Targum, to each their own, though. Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't read really Jasher other than the couple pieces that we've read here on the thing and as well with the Targum. But I think it's at least interesting to hear other perspectives, though they may not be true in the long run. It's still on us to investigate them. And if you get to a point where to you they're all that you need, then awesome. If not, if you use it as a part of your thing, awesome. But anyways, I went ahead and showed those. We'll go ahead and start saying our goodbyes. I'll throw it over to Anthony and let him say his goodbyes first as we wrap this up.
All right. Well, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I can't see the chats tonight on YouTube. I'm sorry, but much love and appreciate everybody for showing up and hanging out with us. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Yes, indeed. Shabbat Shalom. All right. And BV, thank you for your, questions. I love that you're learning, you're eager, and you ask those questions. That's definitely a way to get to the truth. But thank you for joining us for the time you have. If you'd like to go ahead and say goodbye to everyone, that'd be awesome.
You guys let me in here. And,
Well, that was a good college try, but you're super roboty right now. So I'll go back up and give it to Ann. Ann, you go ahead and say your goodbyes.
Shalom all. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes, you must. And check us out. We typically come back into the speaker square after this and kind of chit-chat as we, wind the day down. So definitely come join for us if you'd like to have some conversation. Again, that link's in the description. And then we'll go over to Daryl. Daryl?
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, y'all. Thanks for showing up. And I love these discussions. Sometimes they get a little rough, but that's all right. We all love the Father, and we'll be rewarded for that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and I'll go ahead and throw it over to Marsha.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And yes, we do have a conversation usually after the show. So please join us if you would like. It's not Shabbat anymore, so Shalom, everyone.
Yeah. Well, some people could still be sunny, but to you, it's kind of a difficult one with the time zones, right? But that's how we know that the sun is moving and not a spinning magic ball. But anyways, I'll go ahead and say my goodbyes and cut us out. So we thank you so much, everyone that comes here and joins the conversation, whether in Discord, whether in chat. I see you, Joy. I see you, April. Thanks for being in the chat as well, Sean. I see Kathy Wynn, Mojo Shop, my beautiful wife, the Mrs. Vader. Thank you, Kyle, for being here. And if I missed you, I'm sorry, but I do definitely appreciate everyone's support. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. Really helps us out. and join us on the Discord. But other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful week. I hope that the Father blesses you all and keeps you all. And other than that, y'all have a wonderful rest of y'all's week coming up. Thanks.
One
Bye-bye.
thing I want to say,
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Marshall.
I want to shout out to the Mrs. Vader. I think she is so sweet, and I just got to say, she's just wonderful. That's all I want to tell you. She's wonderful.
I agree.
I really do think she's got a good sweetheart.
You hear that, babe? I bet she's blushing right now. Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, have a great one. Until next week. Join us in Discord. Love ya. Shabbat shalom.